Good morning, kindergartners. It is Monday morning, and I'm about to head to school for packet pickup. But before I do that, I really wanted to read to you a little bit and talk with you also about today's kind of a special day. I look forward to this day. It's kind of fun to discover what happened on this day a long time ago. So when I was younger than you, I was about 3.5 years old, something pretty cool happened in our state, and I don't know if you know about it. So I thought I'd tell you about it. In our state, we have lots of amazing mountains. Actually, some pretty tall mountains for North America. And we have two mountain ranges. We have the Olympic Mountains, which are close to the ocean. And then we also have the Cascade Mountains, which is between us and Seattle. And so in that mountain range, we have a mountain called Mount St. Helens. But it's more than a mountain. It's a volcano. And it's not a volcano in the sense of what you think of. When I think, when someone says the word volcano, I think of this. Lava spewing up into the air. It's bright orange and it's hot, melted rock. Look at that. That is lava. Now, Mount St. Helens looked a little different than that. There was lava involved, but it was deep inside the mountain. It did not spew up and pour down the sides. Mount St. Helens was different. This is what Mount St. Helens looked like. Whoa, a little bit different, isn't it? Do you see bright orange? Do you see things flowing down the side? All of the action is happening way up in the air. This is ash. And the ash was kind of pulverized rock and gases. And so let's talk about it. So this is what Mount St. Helens looked like 40 years ago, early on the morning of May the 18th, 1980. Isn't that a beautiful mountain? What do you see? Oh, I see snow, so it must be cold there. I see lots of trees. Yeah. So this is what Mount St. Helens looked like 40 years ago. Now, Mount St. Helens, they knew that it was a volcano. They knew that it had erupted hundreds of years ago. But it had been just kind of a mountain sitting there. They don't blow every year. Volcanoes don't do that. There are scientists that study that. They call them volcanologists. And there are scientists that do. They watch and they wait and they take measurements. They climb the mountain when it's safe. And they knew that Mount St. Helens was starting to have a little bit of activity deep down inside. And so they started studying it. And so I popped into our library. Mrs. Shaw had this book talking about Mount St. Helens. And inside this book, I'm not going to read the whole book to you, but there's a table of contents. And it tells you what kind of information is in this book. If you don't want to read the whole thing, you can go right to the page that you want to know more about. And so I want to look at layers of the earth. The earth is kind of cool. So I'm going to go to page number 2. Or actually, page number 6. So this is kind of, if you could take a slice out of the earth, this is what it would look like. We live up here on the crust of the earth. This stuff is called the mantle. And this is the core. And the further inside you go, the hotter stuff gets in the earth. Okay. And then if you could take a slice away from a mountainside or a hillside, you could see that down in the earth, there's all sorts of little pockets of what they call magma. Kindergartners, then these are plates of the earth. And when I say plates, I don't mean like dinner plates. I mean they're big, huge pieces of earth, and they move. They rub up against each other, and they kind of get a little friction going. Anyways, when all of that stuff is combined, the magma and the friction of the plates, and other cool things that are happening, you get an eruption sometimes. And so I'm going to read this page to you. Okay. This is Mount St. Helens, the day that it blew. I'm going to scooch over just a smidge. Kindergartners, the largest known explosion of an American volcano came on May 18th, 1980 at 8:32 in the morning. After months of warning signs, Earth let out a giant explosion from the top of the snow-covered Mount St. Helens. Remember, we saw that snow-covered Mount St. Helens? Steam, ash, and gases were blown 12 miles into the air. 12 miles. That's hard to wrap our head around, but that's like from here to Dixie or from here to Touchy on your way to Tri-Cities. That's a long ways, but it went straight up into the air. Kindergartners, the top of the mountain was blasted away, creating a crater on the side of the mountain. Okay. Now, the cool thing is, this ash didn't go just straight up into the air. It floated all over. Because we studied weather, we know that up in the air, what's going on? There's wind. And that wind picked up the ash and moved it. Now, the ash is really soft. How many of you have helped in the kitchen sometime make maybe bread or a cake? It feels like that flour. Maybe you could ask your parents to go to the kitchen and get some flour out of the kitchen and just feel it. It's very soft and very light. It's not even like sand. Sand is kind of coarse and rough if you rub it between your fingers, but flour is really soft. And that's how the ash felt. It was very light, and so when it got up into the air, it blew. It blew across our country, kindergartners. Pretty cool, huh? So, what else was going on up there? Now, in the mountains, what else is happening? Is it just snow? Trees? No, there were lots of things going on up in the mountains. There were animals, there were insects, there were rodents, birds, trees, beautiful thick forests. And kindergartners, those things, it was pretty amazing because those things were destroyed in the blast. It happened really fast. And so it's something that we, they've really watched kind of closely how those things change. So here it is, 40 years later. It's been a long time, like my whole lifetime practically. Guess what's happening up at Mount St. Helens now? Plants are growing. Animals are living there. Insects, flowers, trees are growing. Even there's snow on top of Mount St. Helens and a glacier, which is ice that never melts. That's starting to grow up there now. So, kindergartners, the mountain, we call that recovering. It's recovering. It's doing better than it was that day. Here's a pretty cool picture. So these are trees down here, and this is the plume of ash. Pretty crazy, huh? Now, I'm telling you about this. I'm wondering how many of you guys are feeling a little bit afraid right now? You don't have to be afraid. There are scientists that are watching it, and it's not blowing anytime soon. It happens, I think every 150 years, so you'll probably not see it erupt. And here's what Mount St. Helens is looking like now. Look at this. Flowers, small trees. How cool is that? All right. So we were looking at what it looked like before. It was this beautiful snow-covered mountain. This is what it looked like several days later. This was all mountaintop. It was all covered in snow, and all of this blew up into the air. Isn't that amazing? And all of the trees. Do you see much color here? The only color I see is what's happening in the sky, the blue sky. Everything else is kind of gray, ash, no green trees. Yeah, it was pretty devastating for that area. And that ash, it blew across our state so much that it kind of covered the sun. It looked like it was nighttime during the day. It was very odd. Anyhow, so I wanted to let you know what was up 40 years ago today. And so that is all I have to say about that. But that's not all. I have a volcano project for you. I sent some craft supplies home in your packet this week, and you can build a volcano. So I have attached that video to this email as well. And so you'll want to watch that once you have time to work on a craft project. It doesn't take very long. So thank you for listening. And yeah, talk to your parents. See if you can get some flour out of the pantry and feel that. Feel what that feels like. And if your family wanted to find some videos online, they've got some really cool videos online of people who were walking around on the mountain that day and people who were studying the mountain. And what did it look like? I hope you're having a great start to your morning, and I hope to see you at Packet Pickup. Bye-bye.